Okay, we're up to the new parak. Aman al-Kain Gadol. As a hakdama to the parak, it's a pasuk in this week's parsha, as a matter of fact, Parshas Emor, and it's in parak Chaf Beis, pasuk Yud Aleph. The kohen ki yikne nefesh kinyan kasbo. If a kohen acquires a nefesh kinyan kasbo, hu yochal boy, he eats. V'lid beisay heim yochlu b'lachmo. So Rashi brings here that if the kohen acquires anything he's acquired, the evet, he acquires an evet kanani, that evet kanani would eat. He's kinyan kesef. Included in evet kinyan kesef is an isha. An isha is not even a total; it's a kinyan that you acquire her with kesef shtarabiyah, memakish tavayis to each other. So if she's a bas kohen and she goes ahead and if she's a bas yisrael and she marries a kohen, she can go ahead and eat. Not only that, any child born from an evet can eat. Any child born in the house, well, the beisai could go ahead and eat. Any child born can eat. Okay. So we're discussing this halacha. So now, almana l'kohen gadol. Let's say it's a almana to a kohen gadol. So it's a marriage that is going to have to be done away with because it's a chai belavim. Grusha v'chalutza l'kohen hedyet, or it's the grusha v'chalutza l'kohen hedyet. Again, another marriage that a Kodesh Baruch Hu does not want. Another marriage that a Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't want. So whether it's almana l'kohen gadol or grusha v'chalutza l'kohen hedyet, now there's two types of nechasim. We discussed this earlier. Again, I'll say it again. We went through this earlier, guys. There's something called nichsei miloig, something called nichsei tzayin barzel. So a woman brings into the marriage, she brings in property, right? If she wants to keep the property and not have it written in the ksuba, so the husband has rights to use it. He can run it into the ground. Whatever the loss is her loss, the gain is her gain. Whatever it's going to be at the end, from the time she brings it in till either he divorced or he dies, it's called nichsei miloig. He gets the use of the peiros. There's another type of nechasim that's called nichsei tzayin barzel. Literally, the nechasim of tzayin or barzel, meaning that would be written in the ksuba, exact amount. So if she brings in something to the marriage, she gets a guarantee. It's assessed at the time of the marriage, and she is guaranteed no matter what happens, right? No matter what happens, she's going to get that amount. So if it goes down, it goes down to him, and if it goes up to him. That's a set amount. So if she would bring an eved into the marriage, there's two types of avodim. There's an eved miloig that's not written into ksuba, that he would get the ma'aser yadav, and then there's an eved that's written in the ksuba that basically belongs to the kohen. Now we know that an eved of a kohen does eat truma, as we just said. So what about the eved of a almana who's married to a kohen gadol? Would that eved eat truma? She's an almana. She's not a kohen. Even if she is a kohen, she's an eved. And what's the halacha? So says the Mishnah that almana kohen gadol grusha chalutza kohen hedyet ichnisa le avdei miloig. If she brings into the marriage an eved that he has the rights to use, but in fact he doesn't own any rights because he only gets the usage of the peiros, or va'avdei tzayin barzel, which he kind of owns more because it's really guaranteed to her. He guaranteed her, and he has total achrayus. Avnei miloig lo yochlu. The avnei miloig you do not eat. Bitruma. However, avdei tzayin barzel yochlu. The avnei miloig, which is more hers than his, you would not eat. She would eat truma. But the eved miloig, in fact, he would. Why? Because the eved miloig doesn't eat. Because again, in fact, she doesn't eat. She doesn't eat because she's a halala. If it was a regular girl, guys, if it was a regular woman married to the kohen gadol, she would eat. She doesn't eat this almana because she's a halala. She's a halala, right? Therefore, since he's a halala, and this eved is the eved of a halala, he doesn't eat. Masha ein kain, right? It's tzayin barzel. The tzayin barzel is more. He has more ownership in it, right? Because it's written in the ksuba, he guaranteed it, so it's more zachrayas. So therefore, that eved would eat that every truma. The elu hein avdei miloig in meisai. If he dies, meisai loy, it's his halos. In haisiroi, and if he gets worth more on the slave market, haisiru law, then she gains. In other words, it's in her possession. Simply, the Baal has usage of it. Despite the fact that he is chayiv to feed the eved, and he is a kohen, and he has truma, which is always very cheap. Guys, truma is always cheap. it's a tremendous supply and the demand is very low. For Kahanim, it's a very mainly it's a good thing. Join the club. Huh?
Sounds
Yeah.
like a good deal.
Good deal.
You win both sides.
Yeah, they make truma lollipops.
Yeah.
So Hari Elu Truma. Now this, even though that the Mizainis is nonetheless Hari Elu Truma, they don't need truma. But again, because she really owns it more, she is a halala, and therefore we're going to see reasons why. And this is considered the Avnei Tzayin Barzel. That would eat truma. If it dies, it's his loss. If he gains, it's his gain. Why? Since he guaranteed the amount of the estimation that it was assessed, the assessment is the better word. It was assessed at the time of the marriage. So that amount, that's what he's going to pay. She's guaranteed that amount. Guys, Tzayin Barzel, why is it called Tzayin Barzel? The shepherds used to go into this deal. A shepherd basically was a babysitter. He would guarantee the price, and therefore it was like Tzayin, and Barzel is like iron. It's set in stone, so to say, right? It's there. That's set. So Tzayin Barzel, it's set. So therefore, he took all Akrayas. So therefore, the Eved really, all intents and purposes, is his, right? And therefore, that Eved would eat truma. Harielu yochlu b'truma. That Eved would eat truma. Now, what about this case? Bas Yisrael shenisus l'kayin v'chnis lo yavadim. Now, since she's not a halala because she's allowed to be married to the kayin, bein avdei milug, bein avdei tzayin basel harielu yochlu b'truma, they will eat truma. Even though she has rights to, she eats truma. So since she eats truma, It's not a problem. Okay. Now, the chiddush over here is, if you look at Rashi, Bas Yisrael shenisus l'kayin, afilu avdei miloig she'ena shaloi, even the avdei miloig which are more hers than his, yochlu, the hainu kinyanoi shekona kinyan. This is his acquirement that has an acquirement. Who's the kain's acquirement? The woman. What's the woman's acquirement? The Eved. So we're going to see, I'm going to speak out to you in a second, the lashon of the pasuk, labrias. A kinyan of a kinyan, right? A kinyan, he's playing hard to get. A kinyan of a kinyan. You have what? You have, she is acquired by the kayin, and she acquired the kinyan, the Eved, so he eats. We're going to see. So that's it. Ubas Kohen shenisas to Yisrael. A Bas Kohen that marries Yisrael. Conversely, now a Bas Kohen, as long as she's not married, she eats. Once she gets married, she doesn't eat. Ubas Kohen shenisas to Yisrael v'chnis lo yavadim bein avdim iloy bein avdei tzim basel hari elu lo yoichlu b'truma. They would not eat truma because what? She doesn't eat truma. But even once upon a time, they ate truma before the marriage, right? Because she was eating truma.
Right. So why would they?
Because she's married. Now she's married to Yisrael. She lost the right to eat truma.
Right.
So now they lost the right also.
Right. Why would you think they would have?
Because maybe an Eved, it's a different case. Maybe it could be more question. Okay. Says the Gemara. The avnei meloy lo yarchlu b'truma. So guys, the first case. Let's go back to the first case. Almanul kain gadol, grusha v'chlis kain hedyet. We said that the avnei miloy doesn't eat. Amai lahavi kinyanoi shekaina kinyan. Okay, now listen to the way we're going to dash this pasuk, guys. The pasuk again, Emar Perichav Beis pasuk at Aleph. The kohen ki yikna nefesh kinyan kasbo hu yochal bo. The way the Gemara is going to dash is kohen who has a kinyan kasbo, who has a kinyan nefesh. A kohen, if you acquire something that has a kinyan nefesh, okay. So therefore, we want to know over here, since the kohen, this woman, he acquired this woman. Guys, kedushin is tofes, correct? Kedushin is tofes by a manul kohen gadol. Yeah. So yeah, of course it is, right? Only Rabbi Akiva holds not. Okay, so he, for all intents and purposes, he has a kinyan. Once he has a kinyan and she has a kinyan, based upon the pasuk, a kinyan kasboy that has a kinyan nefesh, then he should eat. Afraid the Gemara. In the first case, I don't understand why if a kohen marries a gerusha, or a kohen gadol marries an almana, why can't the eved miloig eat? It's a kinyan. Because the kedushin is typhus, he acquires the woman, and the woman has a kinyan for a kinyan, as we saw in the Mishnah. When it's a regular bas Yisrael, it works. Okay, that's Fred Gemara. It should be his acquirement that had an acquirement. The Tanya minayin l'koyin shenasa isha. How do you know a kohen that marries an isha? V'kon avadim or kohen avadim sheyochel b'truma shenemar b'kohen ki yikna nefesh kinyan kaspo hu yochel bo. So therefore, a woman and or a man and or eved that he acquires would eat. Now, one step further, uminayin isha shekonsa avadim. And how do you know that his wife is kohen avadim or the avadav shekohen avadim or his eved is kohen an eved? How do you know sheyochel b'truma that new addition would eat? Shenemar b'koyin ki yikna nefesh kinyan kaspo hu yochel bo. And again, the lashon kinyan kaspo yikna nefesh, a double kinyan. Kinyanoi, his kinyan, either the woman or an eved. Shekona kinyan, who acquires an eved. Oichal. So we have a problem. Well, how is it that that by the truma? Once you told me that almanul kain gadol klushin's typhus, she should the nichsei miloik, the eved miloik should eat truma. Now, just a side point, we have a rule in Shas: masha kain eved kain rabbi. Whatever eved acquires, the master acquires. So how is it possible? The case you just said, his eved acquires an eved. His eved can't acquire an eved automatically. If his eved picks it up, it's his. So Rashi answers that someone gave him matana al menas shein l'rabo v'shuspa. If someone gave this eved a matana on the condition that he doesn't have a right in it, then it would be the eved's, and that would be the case. That eved that he gives would in fact eat truma. So we're left with a kasha. We're going to have three terutzim to this kasha, guys. Again, what's the kasha? The first din of the Mishnah. That has what, and she brings it to the marriage. An avdei miloig does not eat truma. Fred Gemara, why not? Since the woman is acquired by the kohen and the evidence acquired by the woman. In fact, we said we just have a pasuk that a kinyan to a kinyan works. Says the Gemara. No, kol eichel, says the Gemara. Anyone that can eat, can feed. Kol she'ena eichel. Anyone who can't eat, eina meichel. Now, this woman is not going to be able to eat. She's a chalala. The almana or the gerusha are chalalim. They can't eat truma. So they can't eat truma. They can't be meichel. They can't feed. What they can't do. They can't do. Good. That's the first teretz. Pasha the teretz. Since they can't play the game, they can't go ahead and get other people playing the game. That's it. Now, the question is, the Gemara is going to say, I'll show you a case of one that doesn't eat, that could feed. Says the Gemara, the next parak, guys. If a kohen that's an oral, he in fact would be able to feed. A kohen that's an oral, he doesn't eat, but his eved does eat. His eved would eat. It's the next parak. It would eat. So you see, your rule is ruined. He's Eina Oichel, so how could, yet he could be Michael? Says the Gemara, guys, what's the difference between an oral and a chalala? An oral, they can be metaken. Now, this is a little shverlach, because Rashi always learns who is an oral is one whose two brothers died beforehand. So where's the ticket? We just had the Gemara, right? We passed him like Rabbi on the third time the Chayish, yeah? So the Ritva speaks out. It must be that we see that his blood was absorbed. In other words, like I said, his blood was absorbed. That that it was okay to do, or else got a problem. Because him mostly could be mitaken. Okay, like Rabbeinu Tam, it's a little better. Rabbeinu Tam says he was scared. Okay, he's scared. You can think of being scared, but it's not a sakana. Anyway, so and for the Gemara, Hassam by the oral pumayu kavlahu. Funny lashon of the Gemara. His mouth is hurting. In other words, his mouth is hurting, meaning it's temporary. Rashi says, "Kloimar mechusrei tekantehein." The only mechusr a correction. Avol oimdimli talking, but you could correct it. V'lechel avol but the chalala shehi nasis chalala ain't like taken along as she does not have a tikkun at all. That's the basic chilik between the two. I hold strong to my din that what if you can't eat, you can't feed. And don't ask me from oral. There's a unique distinction. Fred the Gemara v'loi v'hari mamza shein oichelu meichel. A mamza can't eat, but he could feed. What would the case of mamza be? If Rashi brings a bas Yisrael that marries a kohen, has a bas, and that bas marries a mamza, and then the bas dies, right? And then the bas dies, and the kohen dies. So here, what do you have? You have a mamza. Good. Again, the halacha is like this. if the kohen left a child, guys, listen, look at me. If the kohen dies and the woman has no children, she goes back, she doesn't eat. If she has a child, she eats. If she has a child, she eats. In other words, let's say she got married, they had a child, be a boy or a girl, then the woman will continue to eat even if the kohen dies. Now, let's say what happens over here. That child married a mamza and had a child. So the grandchild's a mamza. The grandchild's a mamza, and now the kohen dies. Now the bas dies, and the kohen dies. So the grandmother, the wife of the kohen, eats. Why? Because of the mamza. You look down the line. There's still a mamza in the family. That mamza cannot eat, but since there is lineage to the kohen, to the woman, she's a bas Yisrael, you would eat. Rashi says, who then the same case would be, even without the mamzeris, we're just speaking that's going to be the Gemara Vaita, so it's the case of mamza. So in other words, this woman is married to a kohen, she has a generation, and the child of the next generation is a mamza. Good? That generation dies, you have the grandmother and a mamza, and the kohen dies. Does she eat truma? Yes. Why is she eating truma? Because of the mamza. Can the mamza eat the truma? No. Is the mamza feeding? Yes. So what's your rule about anyone who can't eat, can't feed? I just disproved it. I have a case where what? And this has no ticket. A mamza is a mamza. A mamza like the mamza, right? Good. Says the Gemara. So you have the case of my mamza shein oichel u'maichel Ravina kinyan oichel kamar. I was speaking about something that you can acquire. A mamza is not an acquirement. It's a result of an illicit union. But I'm talking about a kinyan kaspa, kinyan nefesh, kinyan oichel maichel, a kinyan like an isha that can eat, can feed. She'ena oichel, a kinyan like an isha that can't eat. Eina maichel. That's the first teretz. Okay. And therefore, in the first case of the Mishnah, the avnei miloig does not eat truma because of the fact that the owner does not eat truma. Now, next teretz. Rava Amar midaraisa michla achli. Midaraisa they eat. Midaraisa eat. After all, the pasuk says the kohen nefesh kinyan kasbay, the kinyan nefesh. In other words, the pasuk says you eat, and really you would eat. What am I worried about? Rabbanan hu the gazri behu. Now, the Rabbanan want to facilitate a divorce. They don't want this almana staying with this kohen gadol, and they don't want this kohen staying with a grusha. So what's going to happen? Is she eating truma? No, she's not eating truma. Does she have to feed an eved because the eved can't eat truma? Yes. So what is he going to say? When am I? I'm a zayna. I gain nothing from this marriage. I'm not supportive of the marriage through truma. I have to go ahead and feed my eved. Not truma, which is more expensive, right? So what do I gain? So the reason why we were geyser that the eved doesn't eat is to facilitate her wanting to get divorced because she has nothing to gain. Read the Gemara. She should say, I don't eat. Avdi ain't oichlin. My eved doesn't eat, even though midaraisa he could. Zayna he had slay. Am I a zayna? Hilkach asila fuka. She's going to go say, I don't want anything to do with it, which is exactly what we wanted to do. So, Rabbi, we want to facilitate the divorce. After all, this is a union of Israel. It's a chai. They love him. We don't want it together. So that's the second teretz. The first teretz, what? Anyone who doesn't eat can't feed. Second teretz, we want to facilitate a divorce. So we make him more difficult. Why now? Because Eva doesn't eat. She doesn't eat. Why does she gain? Out. Third teretz. Rav Ashi Amar, third teretz. We're worried that maybe you're going to feed the Eved after Misa. What does that mean? Meaning, once the kohen dies, the Eved wouldn't eat anymore. She's a chalala. The kohen dies, she wouldn't eat anymore. So what are we worried about? Elamayata bas Yisrael shnissus the kohen leisaychel. A bas Yisrael that is married to a kohen also shouldn't eat. Maybe she'll misa. So that teretz doesn't work. Elamar Vashi, here's the teretz. We're speaking about almana kohenes. The Mishnah's case, almana kohen gadol is speaking about a girl who was a bas kohen. So did she eat truma when she was married? No, before she was married, did she eat truma? Yeah. Machmas who? The father. What happens when she gets married to a kohen? Who's she eating because of? Because of the kohen, not the father, the husband, right? So why is the Eved now eating? Because of the husband, right? The Baal. Now the husband dies. She goes back to daddy, right? Right? Why does she get? She doesn't eat. She doesn't eat. She's a chalala. The Eved's not going to eat, but she's mistakenly going to say, 1 second. Before I got married, I eat because of daddy. Now I'll also eat because of daddy. To avoid that mistake, we say no. One more time, back in the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Hello, Marashi, what are we discussing over here? The almana kohenes, We're speaking about a Amana. She was a Kohenet. She was a Bas Kohen. She ate Truma. The Asila Oire. She's going to count the Mara Heta for the Evet to eat. May Kara Achli B'Truma Dveinashia. Initially, the Evet ate the Truma when he was in the father's house, as she did. Insavi lay lahai. Now that she married the Kohen Gadol or the Gerusha, B'Truma the Gavrik. She's eating what? Oichli B'Truma the Gavrik because of her husband. Now the husband's dead. The hashta hadri leila milsa kamaisa. We're going to go back to what the original status and eat truma from daddy. For yoda the meikara before she was married to the Kohen Gadol or the Kohen Hedjit or the Gerusha, right? Then she wasn't a halala. Hashta shavisha lanafsha halala, and she doesn't eat, and therefore he wasn't entitled to eat also. Good. So says Gemara Tenach. So we have three terutzim, guys. What are three terutzim? First one called Eichel Eina Meichel. We have Rabbi's Gezerah that maybe to facilitate a divorce, that she should get divorced quickly, right? He doesn't eat, she doesn't eat. And we have the Gezerah of a Kehenis that maybe she'll go back to eat, not realizing she's halala, and what the Evet is not entitled to eat anymore. Tenach Almana Kehenis, Almana Bas Yisrael Ma'ikol Meim. And Mishnah says Almana. Why do you say Almana? What are you going to say? There's no reason that he shouldn't eat. Almana Kehenis, I understand. Because the concern is you're going to go back and eat truma. But if it's Almana Bas Yisrael, there's no concern she's going to go eat truma, because the only reason she's eating truma at any time is when the husband's alive. Once and he's not even eating that because she's a halala. So what are you worried about? And for Gemara, meaning it's loy plug. They make a distinction. One day asked Almana, Kehenis, they asked all Almana across the board. That's good. Okay, good case. Itmar. And basically very subistic oriented Gemara. Okay. Hamachneses shum lebaila. Okay, here's the shaila, like guys like this. You go ahead and you bring it to the marriage. She brings a kli, very, very, she has a piece of jewelry, let's say, a piece of jewelry. She brings into the marriage. They assessed the jewelry for $10,000. Piece of jewelry for $10,000. She says, I'm not bringing this in that you can use it. I'm bringing it in. You write it into Ksuba. It's written into Ksuba. Now she's guaranteed $10,000. Good. They get divorced. The owner says, I want to keep the jewelry. I'll give you $10,000. She says, I want the jewelry back. What's the din? Okay. What?
I mean, what did they write in the suit? They never use the word jewelry in
They assess it. They assess it. They guarantee the value. So now, says the Gemara, Itmar, Hamachneses Shum Labaila. She's Machneses Shum is an estimation to her husband. That's a lashon for Soin Barzel. Here Imeris Kli Niteles. She, when they get divorced, says, I want to take the Kli. For who am I? I'm going to give you money. So Hadin and me, who is the din with? Who gets it? So Rabbi Yehuda Amar, Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion. Hadinima, Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion. The din's with her, and she gets back her jewelry. In my scenario, Ravami Amar, Ravami says no. Hadin im Rabbi Yehuda. The din is Rabbi Hadin Ima. Ravami Amar Hadin Ima. Ravami says the din is with him. Okay, guys, get the name straight. Rabbi Yehuda, she gets the jewelry. Ravami cash. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Hadinima Mishum Shvach Beis Aviyah Dida. Shvach Beis Aviyah belongs to her. Shvach Beis Aviyah means that something that is the family heirloom, something that has chashivas, right? It's worth more to her than the money. It has a certain intrinsic value. I was saying, I got for my wedding present, my Rosh Yeshiva Zatzal bought me a becha. To tell you it's a nice becha, I would be lying. To tell you it's the most precious piece of jewelry that I have, for sure, priceless. It means so much to me. Now, if we brought it and written into Ksuba, they'd write a certain price. Says Rabbi Yehuda, I don't care what the price is. There's something more shvach be'savia that it's that this comes. We all have some. It's more than sentimental. We all have something that maybe passed down from somebody previous generation. It has some chashivos. It's sentimental value it's true, but chashivos it's more than that. It's something that we all understand. So that's what it's talking about. Says Yehuda, that means more to her than the money. So therefore, she gets the kli. And Rabbi Ami say hadini mo because kim dam amar in mesu lo. Since he takes the loss if it gets lost or stolen or broken or dies, in meisiru, and if it goes up in price of siru loy, Since he's chai b'achrayus, right, to make it up, it's like his. So it's more his. It's more his because again he took responsibility. So do we look at the kli or do we look at its value?
Isn't shum market value?
What?
Isn't shum the market value, not her value?
Again, you're correct. However, that's the however. Shvach beisabiyah. It's not that it's worth more to her. That's not what it doesn't mean. It's worth more to her. It's worth what it's worth. But she would rather have that because of its.
You know, I hear the machlokes.
I'm glad you do, and I'm glad you're here, and we'll continue. So Amar Rav Safra says, Rav Safra, mi ketani v'hein shaloi, hoyel bu chai b'chusa ketani. It doesn't say it's his. It says he's just chai b'achrayus. In other words, achrayus for something doesn't make it yours. If you borrow something, it doesn't make it yours. Hoyel b'chai b'chusa ketani. It's not his. So therefore, Rav Safra hears the svara of Rabbi Huda that shvach beisavi is more of a reason to say that she keeps it. Fred the Gemara question: just because you're chayiv b'achrayus, you eat truma. What are you saying over here, guys? What did our Mishnah say? Since the avdei miloig he's chayiv b'achrayus, he's going to eat truma. Correct? That's what you're saying. Our Mishnah said it. What's the difference between avdei miloig and avdei same Barzel? Avnei Miloig doesn't eat, right? Avnei Miloig doesn't eat. We just gave 3 reasons, right? Why he doesn't eat. But Avnei Barzel does. Why? Chai B'Chusa. Why? But Tanan, Yisrael. Now we know this for yeah.
No, but the also we said it's about Yisrael.
Yeah,
When it's a halala.
you said exactly.
Okay. I know. So, but they're the same. In a normal marriage, they would be the same. Whether it's an Avnei Miloig or it's a
Correct.
It would be the same.
Correct.
So
Correct.
I don't understand the question.
We're saying over here the Avnei Miloig is Yechai B'Chusa. The Gemara gave a reason. Here, look. So you're asking really on the Mishnah. You're asking on the Mishnah. What does the Mishnah say? The Mishnah says that the Avnei Miloig, since you're not Chai B'Achrayus, you don't eat. That's what it says.
But that's only on the halala.
Okay, again. So
I'm saying on the Gemara. They're saying because it's a Tzvayim because it's Avnei Miloig. Maybe I should have waited till you finish.
okay, good.
Okay.
That's a good idea. So
Okay.
says the Gemara. Now we know there are 4 shaymin: shemachinam, shemesacha, noisei sacha, a renter, and a shayel. Shemachinam is chayiv only if he's negligent. A shemesacha is chayiv if geneva aveda and patev and onus happens to it. And it's a machlokes. Machlokes what a renter is. Is he a shemachinam, shemesacha? We pass and he's a shemesacha. And the shayel is chayiv in everything. So now says Gemara, but Tanan Yisrael shesacha para mikayin, a Yisrael that rents a para from mikayin. He's able to feed the kayin's para. He's able to feed him, cow food of truma. So sacha para mi Yisrael kayin. However, a kayin that rents a para from Yisrael, afal pishem is alav, even though mezainis is on him, lo yachlinu kashinei truma. So what do you see? That even though he's chai b'achrayus, guys, the kain's chai b'achrayus, nonetheless, what? He can't feed a truma. So what does the Mishnah say? Just because he's chai b'achrayus, you feed truma. The Tizbra, he nami the mechai b'gneva aveda. Good is the shem esacha. That's chai b'gneva aveda. But Oin said, an oinus happens to it. The kachashev it gets weak. But nafsu the meho gets loses its value. Me mechayiv, he's not mechayiv. So what do you see? That mamish, it's not comparable to nichsei tzayim basil. Nichsei tzayim basil, you mechayiv in everything. It says if you want to compare the nichsei tzayim basil to a shomer elo seifa, Yisrael shesham para b'kayin. Yisrael that evaluates a par from a kayin, lo yachilenu kashini truma, because it belongs to the Yisrael. Aval kayin shesham para mi Yisrael yachilenu kashini truma. Why? Because he's more what? Since he took shesham is the same thing. He took achrayus for it. So since he took achrayus for it, you see that chiyuv achrayus does create ownership to the extent that you're going to go ahead and be able to eat truma. Look at Rashi. Hoyel v'kebilu b'achrusay afafal pisha chayzeres beineha. Even though he's going to return it, as long as he doesn't return it the day who it belongs to him. Even though you're going to return the evet to the woman, since then you're going up and down. In other words, that's enough to be considered yours. The Baal goes up and down since it's in your rishus.
What I'm saying is that if it's that's malog. right? So it's in Horishus because the up and down, so he has the right to they'll still eat. If the Eved is,
Kinyan to Kinyan.
it's still, right. It's
I
still-
hear what you're asking. I hear what you're asking. In other words, why do you have to give these l'chayim b'achriyusa? It's nothing to do with that. Okay, good, right there. Says the Gemara. Yosef Rabbi Yosef, the Shali Pirkei Rav Nachman. Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yosef, who was sitting at the end of the share of Nachman. The Yosef V'Kamer, Tanya Kavasi de Yehuda, that the din is with her. The Tanya Kavasi de Ravami, that the din is with him. Tanya Kavasi de Ravami, that the din is with him. Abdeit Tzayin Barzel, Yotze B'Shem V'Ayin. Now we know that an Eved Kanani, if the master hits it, knocks out his tooth or his eye or any one of his fingers or other parts of his body, we go free. But it has to be guys. It has to be the owner. So now, if an Eved of Tzayin Barzel is that right, that a woman brings into the marriage, Yotze B'Shem V'Ayish Le'ish Avaloy Le'isha. So what do you see? Who has ownership? The Kohen. So the Cheretz Arayit of Ami, that the din is with him, right? He has the ownership. It's going out free because only if he hits it, not if she does. So you see that it's in his jurisdiction. So what do you see? You see that obviously it must be that Tzayin Barzel, the Tzayin Barzel is his. He has a tiny, he can keep it. Tiny Kabasi Rabbi Yehuda, that the din is with her. Hamachneses Shum Labaila. If someone goes ahead and she goes ahead and she's bringing a nichsei tzayin barzel into the marriage, and Ratzah Baal Limchar, if the Baal wants to sell it, lo yimchar. He can't sell it. Now, why can't he sell it if he owns it? You know, he guaranteed, he insured this object. He has this jewelry, he insured it. It's worth he insured that he's going to pay $10,000. He can't sell it. Why can't he sell it? Obviously, guys, if it's his, why can't he sell it? Even if he'd write his own nechasim in the ksuba, if he wants to sell it, he can sell it. Machru, either him or her sell it, the parnasa, because they need it. And certainly her, they both can take it away. Why? Because the sale is not a sale, because the ownership is not, it's not unique to either one of them. So therefore, you see that's a brisa that's like Rabbi Yehuda. So Rav Nachman, halach Rabbi Yehuda, that let's say in our scenario case of jewelry, she could demand the jewelry back and not money. Only Rav Nachman, but Tanya Kavasi Ravami, you bought a brisa that's corroborated Ravami. Says Gemara, Afa Gad the Tanya Kavasi Ravami, Mistaber time of Rabbi Yehuda. Why? Mishum Shvach Beisavia, because of Shvach Beisavia. In other words, that Tanya was so strong that the fact that this, even though you're making an estimation, even though you're putting a monetary figure on it, the fact that it's Shvach Beisavia, it has some significance to her. That's going to take priority over the fact that he guaranteed that money. I used to say there was this woman, the idol Gavra, it's the Milsabik Subasa. She went ahead and wrote into the Ksuba a fine silk garment, right? So, and he guaranteed that the fine, he's going to pay her, he's going to pay the garment or give her back the garment. Shachiv, he died. Shaklu Yasme, the Yisrael went, who Prasua Misla, and they spread it on top of him, like Takrichin. They spread it on top of him. Now the question is, if it belongs to him, then they could spread it on him. If it belongs to her, they couldn't do it. So Lot Reb Yehuda, you should not be able to do it. Like Rav Ami, you should be able to do it. Amar Rava, Kanya Misna, the mace is Kaina. Amar Le Nanane Bereda Rav Yosef, interesting name. Bereda Rava, the Rav Kahana. Amar Rava, Afrav Nachman Allah Reb Yehuda. So if the Allah is like Yehuda, how can you say the mace is Kaina? The Yasmin didn't own it. He didn't own it to go ahead and use it. So Amalei Milay Moida Rav Yehuda the Mechusa Gavaina. Wouldn't Rav Yehuda agree that it's missing being what collected? The Kivin the Mechusa Gavaina, since it's being lacks being collected, B'Shusei Koi. It's in his rishus. Let's see Rashi here. Interesting. I love the Rashi, guys. So we're saying it's hers, but she's lacking collection. Says Rashi, Mechusa Gavaina. Afagavda dinima, even though the din is with her, made Maidahu, Rabbi Yehuda's Maida, the whole Kamad Loy Gav Sinu Mine, the whole time she did not collect it from him, Lav B'Shusakaim, it's not considered in her Rishus. Ela Shibuda Ba'alma Isla Alayu. She has a lien on it. The Ha'imne Nasu, if anything happens to it, I never do a loss. Chay B'Chuyusa, and he's going to make it up. The Kivin the B'Shus Yasmininu, us, right? Since it's the Rishus Yisoimim, Asi Hegdish, comes the act of Hegdish, putting it on a mace, the act of Shinu Yasme, Umafkul Shibaidu V'Yovdemei. Okay, let's speak this outside. It's an interesting concept. We've spoken about many times about the concept of shibudim, the lashon of an eved, that if you want to take a loan out, the person says, why should I, what's guaranteeing the loan? So the person says, well, I have a piece of land that'll guarantee the loan. If the person sells the land, the person who buys it should be aware that there's a halva that this person owns. And that person that you owe the money to has first dibs on this land. You bought it. The person, if he forecloses on the loan, he's able then, the malva, the lender is able to go ahead and take the land away. That's called a lien. That's a shibud. This garment, there's not pshat. It's good. There is it's not, since it's in her rishus, but not in her rishus. Since it's physically not in her rishus, all she has is the right that if anything happens to it, be it stolen, lost, the same thing, or an illness happens to it, she can collect it, right? She can collect it. So now, if something happens to something, if they use it, if something happens, they put it over here and it wasn't missing. So what happens to the shibud? In other words, she should be able to collect that garment, whatever they do with it, whether they put it on any mace, it doesn't make a difference. There's a shibud on it. So just like the lender in my scenario can recollect the land, she with a shibud, with a lien on this garment, should be able to collect it from the mace. So why can't she? Because we saw earlier in the Masechta, there's three things that go ahead and break a lien: the act of hegdish, the act of chametz, and the act of freeing an eved. So if I would go ahead and say, listen, Hesha, give me $100, $1,000, he says, why? I'll give you my eved as collateral. And you know what? If I don't go ahead and pay you back, you can collect from this particular eved. I then free the eved. Even though there's a lien on the eved, my act of freeing the eved takes off the lien. Any act of hegdish, if I'd be magdish the eved, it would take off the lien. Taking the garment and putting it on the mace is tantamount with hegdish. Memela, that's why Rabbi said, despite the fact that Rabbi said the din is with her, that's provided you didn't do something to take off that lien. The act of using it for the mace takes off that lien. Let's see it inside. Says the Gemara. Amar Rava, 4 lines up. Amar Rav Nachman, Allah Rav Yehuda. How could Rabbi say the mace acquires the garment? After all, he agreed the halachas in conjunction with Rav Yehuda that the din is with him. So Amalei Milay Moida Rav Yehuda the Mechusa Gavaina with Rav Yehuda not Moida that it's lacking what collection, and the kivin the Mechusa Gavaina since it's lacking collection, Rishusei Koi it's in his rishus. Rava Latamei Rava according to his reasoning. I write about the lien. The Amarava Hegdish Chometz the Shechrar Mafkia Midei Shiva. Each one of these could go ahead and take off a lien. Amar Yehuda Echnisa Lei Shnei Kalim. She brings in 2 pieces of jewelry. The Elef Zuz, and they're assessed in the Ksuba for 1,000 Zuz, 500 apiece. The Shivchu for Amdu al Shnei Alafim. Now each one goes up what 500. Now it's worth 2,000. Echad Neit Lasoi B'Ksuvasa. One she has a right to take, takes the Ksuba. The Echad Neit Senes Dami V'Neit Laso. And one she goes ahead and she can buy back. Of course, again, Rabbi Yehuda says the din is with her, right? So one she collects, and the other one she would go ahead and pay for. If they shvach beisavia, in other words, the guy can't taina. I have a price for $1,000. I'm giving you a jewelry worth $1,000 because of the concept shvach beisavia. Both pieces of jewelry, both kalim belong to her. She can go ahead and pay him for the second one. My kamashma, what's the chiddush? Shvach beisavia vichadidah have ham Rabbi Yehuda chadasim. They already said it. After the Gemara, I would have thought hani mili heichid dematil and mishkal b'ksubasa. I would thought shvach beisavia is only when it reaches the amount of the ksuba. But to give money and take it. In other words, where is it was the value of ksuba when you could take it? That's when you say shvach beisavia. But to go ahead and give money to take it, I would think not. Kamash Malon, we even say shvach beisavia even when it's worth more money to take.
In other words, don't think it's
This-
value.